My sister fired me in front of 27 employees and told them I was too old, too bitter, and too tired looking to be the face of our family trucking company. She said it with a smile. Not a nervous smile. Not the kind people where when they know they have gone too far and are trying to pull the words back before they become permanent. Vanessa Robles smiled like she had waited years to say it, like every syllable had been polished in her mouth until it could cut clean through me. We were in the upstairs conference room of Robles Freight, the same room where I had slept on a leather couch during the pandemic because 3 drivers were stranded in Texas, 2 loads of avocados were trapped at inspection, and the bank had frozen our line of credit at 4:47 on a Friday afternoon. That room still smelled faintly of coffee, printer toner, and diesel that drifted up from the yard. On the wall behind my father hung the original framed photo of him standing in front of his first truck in 1999, a faded blue Kenworth he had bought with a loan from my grandmother and a level-off confidence that bordered on insanity. I was in that photo too. I was 15, standing near the front tire, wearing braces and holding a clipboard too big for my hands. Vanessa was a toddler in my mother's arms. She had no memory of the company when it was 1 truck, 2 drivers, and my father changing tires in the rain because paying a mechanic would have meant missing rent. But she remembered enough to claim it. "No offense, Claire," Vanessa said, adjusting the pearl bracelet on her wrist, "but nobody wants a woman in black pants and work boots explaining refrigerated routes anymore. This company needs new energy. Younger energy. Cleaner energy. Cleaner." I looked down at my boots. They were scuffed because I had been in the yard at 5 that morning checking a compressor issue before a load left for Dallas. Vanessa's heels were ivory suede. She had probably never walked beyond the polished front lobby without complaining about gravel. Across the table sat our route supervisors, dispatchers, billing staff, warehouse manager, 3 outside vendors, and Ryan Whitmore, Vanessa's husband. Ryan wore a navy suit, a gold watch, and the relaxed expression of a man who believed the world had been built to receive him gently. The week before, he had asked me whether refrigerated trailers made their own cold air or needed ice. Now he was about to become director of operations. My father sat at the head of the table, one hand wrapped around the carved wooden cane he had used since his stroke. Esteban Robles had once filled every room he entered. Even at 68, with silver hair and a gravelly voice, people still straightened when he spoke. Drivers still called him Mr. Robles, with respect. Vendors still remembered when his handshake meant something. That morning, he did not look at me. Vanessa slid a folder across the table. It stopped beside my coffee cup. "Your transition agreement," she said. "You'll step down effective immediately. We'll keep you on as a consultant for 60 days if you behave professionally." Someone sucked in a breath. Maybe Clara from billing, maybe Luis from the yard. I did not look to see. If I saw sympathy, it might break. If I saw fear, I might lose my temper. And Vanessa wanted me temper. She wanted the old story to become visible for everyone. Claire was difficult. Claire was angry. Claire had sacrificed too much and now wanted payment in obedience. I opened the folder. The first page had the Robles Freight letterhead at the top. Under it was a clean sentence stating that I, Claire Elena Robles, voluntarily resigned from my position as Chief Operations Officer due to personal fatigue and strategic disagreement with the company's new growth direction. Personal fatigue. I almost laughed. Fatigue was waking up at 3:12 in the morning because a driver had been pulled over outside El Paso and did not speak enough English to explain the bill of lading. Fatigue was negotiating with produce buyers in Texas while sitting beside my father's hospital bed, listening to a ventilator push air into his lungs. Fatigue was selling my condo in downtown Fresno in 2020 because Robles Freight had 2 payroll cycles left before collapse, and I was the only person in the family who understood what collapse actually meant. Fatigue was not a reason to leave. It was the price of staying. I closed the folder. "Did you authorize this?" I asked me father. The room went still. My father lifted his eyes, but not all the way. He looked somewhere around my shoulder, as if my face had become too expensive for him to look at directly. "Your sister deserves a chance," he said. My chest tightened. "A chance at what?" "At leadership," he said. "You've carried too much for too long. Maybe it's time you rest. Find your own life." My own life. I had given that phrase 22 years off unpaid overtime. Vanessa tilted her head, pretending softness. "Daddy's right. You never built anything outside of this place, Claire. No husband. No kids. No home you actually live in. Just routes and trucks and crisis calls. That's not a life. That's a warning." A low murmur moved across the table. Ryan looked down, but his mouth twitched. I waited for me father to stop her. He did not. Vanessa leaned closer, lowering her voice just enough to make the insult feel intimate, but still loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't make yourself a martyr. You were just Dad's employee. Just. The word landed harder than the folder. Just an employee who had personally guaranteed 3 loans when the company's credit was dead. Just an employee who had flown to Laredo at midnight to save a contract my father had nearly lost after missing a refrigeration inspection. Just an employee who knew every driver's kid by name, every vendor's payment terms, every buyer's breaking point, every truck's weak engine sound from across the yard. I looked at Ryan. Do you know what happens to avocados after 6 hours above temperature? His face reddened. I'll have people for that. You already do, I said. You're firing one. Vanessa laughed sharply. See? This is exactly what I mean. She thinks the whole company dies if she stops breathing. I looked back at me father. Is that what you think too? His knuckles tightened around the cane. For a second, I saw the man who used to bring me gas station hot chocolate after night dispatch runs when I was 18. I saw the father who once told every driver, "My Claire has a better head for freight than any man in this county." Then he looked away. You made yourself necessary, he said quietly. That doesn't mean you own us. The sentence should have shattered something in me. Instead, it hardened it. I picked up the pen Vanessa had placed on top of the resignation agreement. It was heavy, black, engraved with Robles Freight in gold letters. My father had ordered 50 of them after our first $1 million quarter. I had been the one who got us that quarter. I uncapped it. Vanessa's smile widened, then I laid the pen across the folder without signing. I'm not resigning under a lie, I said. And I'm not consulting for Ryan. Ryan sat straighter. You don't get to decide that anymore. No, I said, you're right. Not in this room. Vanessa's face flickered. I stood, I'll clean out my office by noon. You'll clean it out now, Vanessa snapped. Leave the access card, the company phone, the Ford Expedition, and every account password with IT. And tell your drivers they answer to Ryan starting today. My drivers. Luis Alvarez, our yard manager, stood near the wall with his cap in his hands. He had worked for us for 14 years. When his wife had cancer, I moved his schedule so he could drive her to chemo. When his son joined the Marines, I helped him print the paperwork because he did not understand the online forms. He stared at Vanessa with a look so cold I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. No one owns people, I said. Drivers answer to paychecks, respect, and contracts. Vanessa rolled her eyes. There she goes again. The saint of the truck yard. I walked out before she could see my hands shake. My office waits at the end of the hallway, past dispatch and above the west side of the yard. From the window, I could see the line of white refrigerated trucks parked nose out, ready for afternoon loading. Clear Route Logistics was painted in small letters near the sleeper cab doors, beneath the larger Robles Freight decals my father had insisted we keep, for family continuity. Family continuity. That phrase had been expensive. On my desk were 2 monitors, a cracked mug from a driver appreciation barbecue, for Bindersoft route permits, a framed photo of my mother, and a small cactus that had survived more neglect than most people. I placed the cactus in a cardboard box with my notebooks. Then I opened the bottom drawer. Inside was an old key attached to a rusted metal tag. Kenworth 1999. My father's first truck. I picked it up and closed my fist around it. The memory came back with the smell of sanitizer and hospital air. April 2020. My father unconscious. Vanessa in Scottsdale at a luxury resort because she couldn't handle negativity. Ryan, not yet her husband, using my father's credit card at a golf club. Robles Freight bleeding cash, drivers refusing to roll because they had not been paid. A lender threatening repossession. A buyer in Dallas screaming into my phone that they would never use us again. I had sat in the hospital parking lot with a laptop balanced on the steering wheel and created Clear Route Logistics LLC because Robles Freight could not legally qualify for the emergency equipment financing we needed. I used my own credit, my own savings, and the proceeds from selling my condo. I bought 12 newer refrigerated units under Clear Route. Later, 6 more. My father signed the operating transfer from his hospital bed when he woke up. Do whatever you have to do, honey, he had whispered, slipping into the old tenderness he used when he was scared. Save us. So I did. Clear Route bought the trucks. Clear Route licensed the satellite temperature system. Clear Route signed the new contracts with Salcedo Foods in Texas, Westbridge Grocers, and 4 Central Valley growers who trusted me, not the faded Robles name. Robles Freight kept the building, the old yard, for half-dead trucks, and the family sign out front. On paper, the company my sister wanted was mostly a shell. I had never planned to use that against them. That was my mistake. I packed slowly. Not because I wanted to hurt them. Because I wanted to make sure I took only what was mine. Personal notebooks. My mug. The cactus. My mother's photo. The Kenworth key. A hard drive containing Clear Routes proprietary route projections, driver compliance files, and customer temperature logs. I did not delete Robles Freight files. I did not damage computers. I did not change passwords that belonged to the old company. I only logged out of accounts registered under ClearRoute and disconnected my biometric access from the shared dashboard Ryan thought was the truck app. By 11:43, I walked downstairs with my box. Dispatch went silent as I passed. Clara stood up. She was 59, sharp-eyed, and could catch a fake invoice faster than any accountant I had ever hired. "Claire," she said, her voice rough. I shook my head slightly. "Not here." Vanessa was in the lobby, holding a paper cup of champagne like this was a product launch. Ryan stood beside her, one hand in his pocket, already acting taller. "Don't be dramatic," Vanessa said. "This is business." "No," I said. "This is family pretending it knows business." Her smile thinned. "Careful." I walked past her. Outside, the noon heat came off the pavement in waves. The yard smelled like diesel, rubber, and ripe fruit from the loading dock. Drivers stood in clusters, pretending not to watch me. Luis met me beside my car. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. "Yes." His jaw worked. "What do you want us to do?" "Do your jobs," I said. "Follow the law. Don't argue. Don't fight. Don't damage anything." "And the white trucks?" I looked across the yard. 18 refrigerated units, washed and fueled, all financed under ClearRoute Logistics. Every one of them linked to a satellite system that required owner biometric approval before any new dispatcher could release a route after an administrative change. "If they try to move the white Freightliners," I said, "tell them the system requires the owner's fingerprint." Luis stared at me. Then, slowly, he smiled. "And if they ask who the owner is? Tell them to check the registration." I put the box in my back seat and got into my car. Before I started the engine, I called my attorney, Marisol Kane. She answered on the second ring. "Tell me." "They did it," I said. "Apayus." "All right," Marisol said. "Do you want soft or clean?" "Clean." "Then we activate contingency." I looked through the windshield at the old Robles Freight sign, sun-faded and proud, bolted above the front gate like a crown. "Notify all active customers," I said. "Due to an unauthorized administrative change at Robles Freight, ClearRoute Logistics is moving operations to the North Industrial Yard effective immediately. Prepare ownership packets for the trucks, software licenses, operating agreements, and customer contracts. Also freeze any shared access that touches ClearRoute." "Already drafted," she said. "I was hoping you wouldn't need it." So was I. As I pulled away, Vanessa and Ryan were visible through the lobby glass, laughing with my father's vendors, clinking cups, celebrating the office they had stolen. I did not cry until the gate disappeared in my rearview mirror. But even then, my tears felt different. They were not surrender. They were grief leaving my body to make room for whatever came next. Because Vanessa wanted my chair. By sunrise, she would learn a chair cannot move 18 trucks. At 6:18 the next morning, my phone began vibrating across my kitchen table. First Ryan. Then Vanessa, then dispatch. Then Ryan again. I was standing barefoot in my small apartment, pouring coffee into the same chipped mug I had refused to leave behind. The July sun had not fully cleared the Fresno rooftops yet, and for the first time in years, I had not woken up to a route emergency already waiting in my chest. I watched the phone buzz until the screen went dark. Then it lit again. "Vanessa." I declined. At 6:42, Luis sent me a photo. All 18 white trucks sat in a perfect line at the south yard, engines off, reefers humming only on standby power, drivers leaning against the fence with breakfast burritos and sodas like they were watching a minor league game. Under the photo, Luis wrote, "New director screamed at tablet." Tablet did not care. I laughed once, alone in my kitchen. It startled me. At 7:03, another message arrived. Ryan asked if truck keys have a master override. At 7:16, Clara texted, "Vanessa told everyone you hacked the company." I asked whether she meant the company. She said you didn't run. I took one sip of coffee and opened my laptop. Marisol had already sent the notification packet. It was clean, professional, and brutal. ClearRoute Logistics hereby notifies all active customers, vendors, contractors, and personnel that Robles Freight has undergone an unauthorized administrative change affecting operational continuity. To protect temperature-sensitive cargo, driver compliance, customer data, and equipment under ClearRoute ownership, all ClearRoute assets and contracts are being transitioned to the North Fresno Industrial Yard effective immediately. No insults. No drama. Just ownership. By 7:55, the first customer called. Matthew Salcedo owned Salcedo Foods, a Texas-produced distributor who bought enough avocados in a month to make smaller carriers beg for his scraps. He had a voice like gravel and a memory like a prosecutor. Claire, he said. Your sister just called me sweetheart and told me not to worry about my load. I closed my eyes. I apologize. I didn't call for an apology. I called to ask whether Ishold panic. No, I said. Your load will be collected from the grower by 11. It will cross into Texas before dawn if inspection cooperates. I'm moving it through clear route. A pause. So Robles Freight is out? Robles Freight removed me from operations yesterday. Matthew exhaled slowly. I never signed with your sister. No, I signed because of you. Yes. Send me a new agreement with clear route only. I don't care what sign is on the old yard. By 8:30, Westbridge Grocers had done the same. By 9:05, 2 Central Valley growers asked whether their fruit was safe. By 9:40, 3 independent drivers I had used during peak season offered their rigs for temporary coverage. That was the first thing Vanessa never understood. Logistics was not trucks. It was trust moving on a schedule. At 10:12, Marisol called. Vanessa's attorney sent a cease and desist accusing you of sabotage, theft, interference with contracts, emotional distress, and elder manipulation. Elder manipulation? She's getting creative. What did you send back? The titles, operating transfer, financing records, customer agreements, software licenses, insurance certificates, and a reminder that falsely claiming ownership of commercial equipment can create criminal exposure. I smiled into my coffee. I love you. You pay me to be loved in court-adjacent ways. At 10:45, I put on a navy dress, low heels, and the gold watch my mother had left me. Not because I wanted to impress anyone. Because I needed armor, and my mother had always believed that a woman walking into a fight should look like she expected to win. The old yard gate was closed when I arrived. The security guard, a young man named Kevin who had only been there 3 months, stepped out of the booth looking miserable. Miss Robles, he said, I was told not to let you in. By whom? Miss Vanessa. Did she tell you why? He swallowed. She said you were trespassing. I looked past him at the line of trucks. Call the police, I said. Tell them you're refusing entry to the registered owner of equipment parked inside this yard. His face went pale. Or open the gate and keep your job with whoever still has payroll next week. He opened the gate. Vanessa stormed out of the office before I reached the first truck. She was wearing a cream blazer, huge sunglasses, and a fury so bright it almost looked glamorous. Ryan hurried behind her, tie crooked, shirt damp at the collar. You thief! Vanessa screamed. Several drivers turned. Good morning, I said. You locked our trucks. No, I said. The trucks are functioning exactly as designed. Don't play lawyer games with me. That would be hard. You brought Ryan. A few drivers looked away quickly, hiding smiles. Ryan stepped forward. Claire, whatever point you're trying to make, it's over. Unlock the system. Show me the bill of sale. He blinked. For the trucks, I said. Show me the bill of sale, the financing agreement, the insurance certificates, the software license, or any contract giving Robles Freight the right to dispatch them under new management. Vanessa's voice sharpened. Daddy bought those trucks. No, I said. Daddy almost lost those trucks before they existed. She lunged for the tablet in Ryan's hand as if the answer might appear if she tapped hard enough. The logo says Robles Freight. The registrations say Clear Route Logistics. I pulled the folder from my bag and held up the first title certificate. Then the second. Then the insurance binder, then the satellite system agreement. Ryan stared at the papers like they were written in another language. Luis came to stand near me. Vanessa pointed at him. Get back to work. He looked at me, then at her. With what truck? Her face twisted. You're all enjoying this because she poisoned you against us. No, Clara said from the office doorway, we're enjoying this because you called the person who paid you son accessory. Vanessa spun toward her. You're fired. Clara folded her arms. With which payroll authority? The yard went quiet. That was the first visible crack in Vanessa's crown. I did not stay long. There was no point. The documents were not there to persuade her. They were there to warn everyone watching that the truth had paperwork. Marisol will contact your attorney, I said. Until then, do not attempt to move, sell, strip, relabel, or dispatch any Clear Route equipment. If any temperature-sensitive cargo is compromised because you misrepresented capacity to a customer, that liability stays with Robles Freight. Vanessa stepped close enough for me to smell her perfume. You think this makes you powerful? She hissed. You're pathetic. You built a little safety net because you knew no one would ever choose you. There it was. The family language under the business language. I could have told her power was not a safety net, power was spending years being the only adult in a room full of people addicted to rescue. Power was learning every contract because you could not afford to trust promises. Power was being humiliated and still making sure the drivers had legal protection before they chose sides. Instead, I said, "You're blocking my truck." She stepped back as if it had slapped her. At noon, my father summoned me to the family house. The Robles house sat on a quiet street lined with old sycamores, the kind off place that looked more stable than the people inside it. My mother had loved that house. She had planted rosemary along the walkway and painted the kitchen cabinets pale blue. After she died, my father stopped changing anything. Vanessa called it sentimental. I called it unfinished grief. When I arrived, Vanessa's white SUV was parked crooked in the driveway. Ryan's BMW was beside it. Marisol's black sedan waited at the curb. My attorney stepped out wearing gray and carrying a leather file case. "You sure?" she asked. "No, good. Only idiots are sure before family meetings." Inside, Vanessa was already crying. Not quietly. Not genuinely. She was performing grief like a courtroom demonstration. "She betrayed us," Vanessa said as soon as I entered. "Daddy, she built a secret company behind your back. She took advantage of you when you were sick. She stole everything." My father sat in his recliner near the fireplace, cane across his knees. He looked older than he had the day before. Maybe betrayal ages people faster when they are finally forced to decide which betrayal counts. "Claire," he said, his voice low. "Tell me this isn't true." "What part?" "That you planned this." I looked around the room, family photos on the mantel. Vanessa's wedding portrait in the center. Huge and glossy. Mine, a small graduation photo from community college, half hidden behind a candle. "I plan survival," I said. "You sign edit." Vanessa made a disgusted sound. He was recovering from a stroke. He was alert, evaluated, and represented by counsel, Marisol said. "I have the hospital notary logs." Ryan glanced at Vanessa. She had not expected Marisol to speak. I set the folder on the coffee table. 2020. Operating transfer, I said, placing the first document down. "You authorized Clear Route Logistics to acquire equipment and operate contracts Robles Freight could not finance." My father stared at his signature. "Clear Route Equipment Financing," I continued. "Personally guaranteed by me. Not Robles Freight. Not Vanessa. Not Ryan. Me." Another document. Customer contracts with Salcedo Foods, Westbridge Grocers, and 4 growers. All under Clear Route, with Robles Freight listed only as legacy yard support. Another. Software licensing, temperature tracking, driver compliance, satellite dispatch. Clear Route. My father's mouth opened slightly. "I thought it was temporary," he said. "It was," I replied, "until yesterday." Vanessa jumped up. "This is ridiculous. Daddy built that company." "Daddy built the first version," I said. "I kept the corpse." Breathing after everyone else left the room. She slapped the folder off the table. Papers flew across the rug. For a second, no one moved. Then Marisol crouched calmly and began gathering documents. "That's one way to respond to evidence." Ryan whispered, "Vanessa." She turned on him, "Shut up." I reached into my bag and pulled out a second folder. Vanessa froze. "This one is for family money," I said. My father's face changed. "Claire," he warned. "No," I said. "You let her call me a thief and front off my employees. We're done protecting people from numbers." I opened the folder. Vanessa's boutique at River Park. 2.3 million in losses paid through Robles Freight vendor accounts under marketing events. Ryan's gambling debt from Lake Tahoe. 1.1 million wired after a man named Carter Bell threatened to put a lien on a warehouse lease. Your hospital bills. 1.4 million paid by me because Robles Freight had $14,300 in operating cash. Ryan sank onto the sofa. Vanessa's face went white with anger. "You had no right to dig through my life." "I didn't dig," I said. "You buried things in accounts I had to reconcile." My father stared at Ryan. "Gambling?" Ryan rubbed his jaw. "It was before the wedding." "It was 3 months ago," I said. Vanessa whipped toward him. For the first time all day, she looked betrayed instead of offended. "You told me that was a business bridge loan." Ryan did not answer. The room went so quiet I could hear the old refrigerator humming in the kitchen. My father lifted one trembling hand to his forehead. "I thought the company was doing better," he whispered. "It was," I said. "Because I moved the healthy parts into something lenders would touch. Because I paid the drivers before I paid myself. Because I let you keep the sign, the office, the myth." He looked at me then. Fully. The pain in his eyes might have softened me 10 years earlier. But yesterday he had heard Magister call me unwanted and had chosen silence. Vanessa recovered first, people like her always did. Shame only touched her if it threatened her lifestyle. "You're so proud of yourself," she said. "But you forgot something." She picked up her purse. The yard is still Dad's. The building is still Dad's. The name is still Dad's. And customers care about legacy. Customers care about cold fruit arriving on time, I said. She smiled suddenly. It was too quick. Too pleased. My stomach tightened. What did you do? Vanessa looked at my father. Tell her. My father closed his eyes. Tell me what? I asked. Vanessa answered for him. Daddy signed a letter of intent last week. Robles Freight is selling the yard to A Development Group. Luxury storage units, RV parking, some stupid warehouse concept. Closes in 45 days. And guess what? The buyer wants the land cleared. Ryan looked relieved, like this was finally a card understood. No yard, Vanessa said softly, no trucks. No trucks, nah little kingdom. You can own all the paperwork you want, Claire. You still need ground. For the first time that day, I felt the floor shift under me. My father would not meet my eyes. You were going to sell the yard? I asked. I thought it would simplify things, he said weakly. Vanessa said you would fight the transition. I stared at him. So you gave her me job and sold the ground under the fleet. It's family property. It was my operating base. Vanessa shrugged. Should have gotten married and bought your own. Marisol touched my arm lightly, a warning not to respond too fast. But Vanessa was not finished. The buyers arrive tomorrow morning for final inspection. Once Dad signs the purchase agreement, you have 30 days to remove your precious trucks. Unless you want to rent space from me at market rate. She smiled. I'll give you the family discount. I looked at my father, and something in me went very still. You knew? He swallowed. I wanted peace. No, I said. You wanted museful and quiet. Peace was just the word you put on it. I gathered my folders. At the door, my father said my name. I stopped but did not turn. You can't move an operation that size overnight. I looked back then. For the first time since childhood, I saw fear in his face. Not fear for me. Fear of what I might do without asking permission. You're right, I said. Not overnight. Vanessa smiled. I opened the door. But I started 6 months ago. The North Yard was not beautiful. It sat behind a row of warehouses near Highway 99, surrounded by chain-link fence, dust, and the kind of industrial silence that made people with soft hands call it depressing. The office was a modular building with bad carpet. The break room had 2 vending machines and a microwave that sounded like a lawn mower. The loading area needed repainting. Half the security lights were out. To me, it looked like oxygen. I had leased it 6 months earlier after my father began asking strange questions about unlocking land value. At first, I told myself he was just aging, just anxious, just listening to too many old business friends who made money selling piece off what their parents had built. Then Vanessa started mentioning modernizing the family asset. Then Ryan asked if refrigerated trucks could be parked anywhere for a while. That was when I stopped believing coincidence was harmless. I did not move the operation because I wanted war. I prepared because my family only respected sacrifice when they could spend it. By 5 that evening, 9 of the clear route trucks had been legally released from the old yard under owner authorization and transferred to the North Yard. The others followed in groups as drivers completed compliance checks. Luis oversaw the movement. Clara transferred billing stations. Marisol filed notices. My phone did not stop ringing. Every call felt like stepping across a bridge while someone behind me tried to burn it. At 7:30, the first driver arrived with his truck, parked in Bay 3, climbed down, and held out his hand. Where do you want me, boss? His name was Kenny Brooks. He was 54, divorced twice, stubborn as a fence post, and the best mountain route driver we had. I shook his hand. Still calling me boss? He looked offended. I called you boss when your name wasn't on the building. Why stop now? By midnight, 14 trucks were parked at the North Yard. By 2:10 in the morning, the Salcedo load waste in the road. By sunrise, Robles Freight's old yard had 4 trucks left, the ancient blue Kenworth that barely started, 2 flatbeds no buyer wanted, and a box truck with a transmission problem my father had refused to fix because it was not urgent. The development buyers arrived at 9. I was not invited. I went anyway. Not to fight. Not yet. I parked across the street and watched from inside my car as 2 men in linen jackets walked the old yard with Vanessa, Ryan, my father, and a real estate broker. Vanessa wore red, a color she chose when she wanted to be photographed. Ryan carried a folder. My father moved slowly beside them, cane tapping against asphalt. The yard looked emptier than I had ever seen it, without the clear route trucks. The place seemed like a theater set after the actors had left. The sign still said Robles Freight. The office still had our name on the glass. But the movement was gone. The purpose was gone. Legacy, without labor, is just decoration. At 9:42, Marisol called. Interesting update, she said. Good interesting or lawyer interesting? Both. The development group's financing requires environmental and operational disclosures. Robles Freight represented that the yard included ongoing refrigerated fleet operations, active customer contracts, and equipment assets sufficient to support transitional lease income. I sat up straighter. They claimed my trucks as part of the value. They strongly implied it. Can we prove that? I have the buyer packet. Someone on their side sent it to the wrong Claire. I looked through the windshield at Vanessa laughing with one of the buyers. There it was. The second twist Vanessa did not know was coming. She had not only tried to take my job, she had tried to sell my assets without owning them. Send it to me, I said. I already did. Also, there's more. Ryan's signature appears on an equipment schedule attached to the buyer packet. Ryan signed for the trucks? As interim director of operations. I watched Ryan gesture across the empty yard with the confidence of a man explaining land-headed not understand. For years, I had thought Ryan was useless. That morning, I realized useless was too generous. Useless sits still. Ryan created damage. At 10:15, I stepped out of my car and crossed the street. Vanessa saw me first. Her smile vanished. What are you doing here? Saving you from committing a bigger crime in front of witnesses. The broker blinked. One of the buyers frowned. My father closed his eyes. Ryan stepped forward. This is a private meeting. Great, I said. Then privately explain why your buyer packet lists 18 refrigerated trucks, for active produce contracts, and satellite dispatch revenue as part of Robles Freight's transferred value. The taller buyer, a man named Andrew Collier according to his embroidered portfolio, turned slowly toward Ryan. Is there an ownership dispute? Vanessa laughed too loudly. My sister is emotional. She was recently removed from management. I asked about ownership, Andrew said. Marisol's car pulled in behind mine. My attorney emerged. With her leather case and the look of a woman who had just found a clean kill in a messy file. I represent Clear Route Logistics, she said. The equipment listed in your packet is not owned by Robles Freight, neither are the contracts. Neither is the dispatch software. If those assets were represented as sale value, your due diligence has a problem. The broker's face drained. Ryan whispered something to Vanessa. She whispered. Back, fix it. He did not. Because there was nothing to fix. Andrew flipped through his folder. Mr. Robles, were you aware of this? My father looked at Vanessa. That look told me more than any confession. He had not read the packet. Of course he had not. Vanessa told him what he wanted to hear. Ryan put papers in front of him. My father signed because he believed family could not cheat him if they shared his name. It would have been funny if I had not been one of the people he allowed them to cheat. I trusted my daughter, he said quietly. Vanessa pounced on the word. And you should keep trusting me. Claire is trying to destroy us because she can't stand that you finally chose me. Andrew closed his folder. We're pausing due diligence. The broker said. Andrew, we can clarify. No, Andrew said. We're pausing. If assets were misrepresented, we have exposure. Vanessa's mouth fell open. Exposure, she repeated. We're the sellers. And possibly defendants, Marisol said. That was the first time Vanessa looked truly scared. Not embarrassed. Not angry, scared. My father sat down heavily on a concrete parking block. I almost moved toward him. Old instinct. Old training. But I stopped. Vanessa saw him stop. For one strange second, we both understood it. The daughter, who always rushed forward, had finally learned to stay where she stood. My father looked at me. Claire, he said. Not here. Please. I stood at the yard behind him. The painted lines I had paid to redo. The loading dock I had repaired after a storm. The driver lounge where I had installed better chairs because Kenny's back was bad. The place had pieces of my life embedded in it like shrapnel. You have two options, I said. Everyone listened. You can sell the physical yard to Clear Route at a discounted price reflecting the debt I personally covered, the unpaid reimbursements, and the liability created by misrepresenting my assets. My father keeps lifetime residence in the family home, medical expenses controlled through a protected account, and no one touches his care. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. She knew there was a second half. Or, I continued. I move everything permanently to the North Yard, file suit over the buyer packet, notify every creditor, every customer, and every equipment insurer, and let Robles Freight keep its empty building, for broken trucks, a failed land deal, and 60 employees asking where their final checks went. Ryan muttered, that's extortion. Marisol looked at him, it's arithmetic. Vanessa shook her head. Daddy will never sell Toyoyo. My father stared at the pavement. For the first time in my life, he did not answer her. At 8:03 the next morning, his lawyer called me. They accept, he said. I was standing at the north yard watching a forklift operator load temperature monitors into Bay 2. Put it in writing, I said. They're asking for standard family consideration. No, a pause, no? No family discount. Credits against documented debts only. My father keeps the house during his lifetime. Vanessa and Ryan vacate any company-paid property within 30 days. Clear Route assumes employees who choose to stay. Robles Freight debt stays with Robles Freight unless specifically negotiated. That will upset your sister. I'm counting in documents to do what feelings never could. The signing happened 3 days later at a glass-walled law office in downtown Fresno. Vanessa arrived late, wearing sunglasses indoors. Ryan looked gray. My father wore his best dark suit, the one he used to wear to lender meetings back when he still enjoyed being feared. No one hugged. No one asked about my morning. The lawyers spoke in language so dry it almost disguised the fact that a family kingdom was changing hands because the princess had mistaken the servant for furniture. When the final page came to me, my hand hovered over the signature line. For a second, I saw my mother at the kitchen table rolling masa with flour on her cheek, telling me, "Do not let bitterness make you small, Claire. If you have to fight, fight for something bigger than revenge." I signed. Not because I wanted the Robles name. Because I wanted the people under it to stop bleeding for it. Afterward, my father remained seated while Vanessa stormed into the hallway. Ryan followed her, then stopped halfway, as if even his body was tired of obeying her. My father looked at me. "Did you really sell your condo for payroll?" "Yes." His lips trembled. "And I let her call you an employee." I said nothing. Sometimes silence is not mercy. Sometimes silence is a mirror. He covered his face with one hand. "I was proud," he whispered. "And sick. And afraid that if I admitted you saved the company, it meant I had failed. I wanted to feel satisfaction. I felt tired." "You did fail," I said. "Not because you got sick. Because you let me pay for your pride and then punished me for knowing the price." He lowered his hand. "I didn't know how to fix that." "You don't fix it with words." Vanessa returned then, furious, phone in hand. Of course she did. People like Vanessa do not accept defeat. They turn it into content. She walked straight through the lobby and out to the parking lot, holding her phone high, speaking in the bright, trembling voice she used online. "Everyone needs to see what my sister has done," she said. "This is Claire Robles, the woman who stole our father's company while he was recovering from a stroke." Ryan reached for her arm. "Vanessa, stop." She jerked away. "No. I'm done being quiet." That almost made me laugh. She had never been quiet a day in her life. By the time we reached the old yard that afternoon, her live stream had several hundred viewers. Not millions. Vanessa was not that famous. But enough. Enough family friends. Enough former boutique customers. Enough local business people. Enough employees watching from the edges of the yard as she marched through the gate like a martyr entering battle. She had chosen the yard for drama. The Robles Freight sign had been removed from the front gate that morning. It leaned against the wall, faded red letters scratched and dusty. In its place, workers were installing a new sign. Clear Route Logistics, simple. Blue. Unsentimental. Vanessa pointed her camera at it. "Look at this," she cried. She couldn't just leave. She had to erase our family. I walked toward her slowly. The employees gathered near the loading dock. Drivers. Dispatchers. Mechanics. Office staff. Some had worked there longer than Vanessa had been married. Some had watched me grow from a teenager with a clipboard into the woman standing there now. Before, a scene like that would have humiliated me. Now I understood something Vanessa did not. An audience is dangerous only when you have been lying. "I'm glad you're recording," I said. Vanessa's eyes flashed. "Good. Tell them. Why you manipulated Daddy." "No," I said. "I'll let you tell them." It took out my phone. Her smile faltered. "Remember Alicia from your boutique?" I asked. Vanessa went still. Alicia had worked at Vanessa's failed boutique for 2 years. She had sent me voice memos after Vanessa tried to blame unpaid wages on Claire holding company money hostage. Alicia was a single mother. Vanessa had called her dramatic for asking when payroll would clear. I connected my phone to the portable speaker Luis used for safety briefings. Then I played the audio. Vanessa's voice came out crisp and unmistakable. "Claire will pay it. She always pays. Lethe or be mad. That's what she's good for. As long as she's taking care of Dad and the company, I don't have to waste my life smelling like diesel." The yard went silent. Vanessa lowered her phone slightly, comments began sliding up her screen. I could not read them all, but I saw enough. Did she just say that? Wow. So the sister paid everything. Diesel built your lifestyle, girl. Vanessa's face flushed. That's edited. I played the second clip. Ryan's voice this time. Don't worry about the equipment schedule. Your dad won't read it. Once the land deal closes, Claire can sue all she wants. We'll already have cash. My father, standing near the office with his lawyer, gripped his cane like he might fall without it. Ryan looked at the ground. Vanessa whispered, "You recorded that?" "No," I said. "Alicia did. In your boutique office, while you were discussing how to blame her missing paycheck on me." I tapped my phone again. This time, I displayed documents on the large monitor Clara and Luis had rolled out from dispatch. Payroll records. Vendor payments, wire transfers. Hospital bills. The equipment titles. The buyer packet with Ryan's signature. No dramatic music. No insults. The truth did not need lighting. It had receipts. Clara stepped forward first. "Claire paid us during the shutdown," she said, voice shaking but clear. "When the bank froze the account, she paid payroll from her personal line. I process edit." Kenny raised his hand. "Claire answered my call at 2 in the morning. When my reefer failed outside Amarillo. Mr. Robles was sick. Vanessa was posting beach photos. Claire got a mechanic to me before the load died." Luis removed his cap. "My wife's chemo schedule changed 4 times. Claire changed my shifts every time and never made me feel small for asking." One by one, people spoke. Not speeches. Memories. The kind Vanessa had never collected because she had never stood close enough to anyone's hardship to be inconvenienced by it. My father listened to each one as if every sentence struck him physically. Vanessa tried to interrupt twice. The second time, Clara said, "Let people finish. You've had the microphone your whole life." The employees applauded that. Vanessa's live stream kept running. Her hand shook so badly the frame bounced. Ryan finally stepped away from her. "Do something," she snapped at him. He looked at the trucks, the workers, the documents, the new sign. Then he looked at her with an exhaustion that almost resembled honesty. "I don't know how," he said. She stared at him. He laughed once, bitter and small. "That was always the problem, Vanessa. I don't know how to do any of this." It was the first true thing I had ever heard him say. Vanessa's face crumpled, not from heartbreak, but from the shock of losing an accessory she thought would perform on command. My father walked toward the old sign leaning against the wall. For a moment, everyone stepped back. He touched the faded letters of Robles Freight with his fingertips. That sign had been his pride for 27 years. It had been the proof that a man with 1 truck, 2 hands, and a dangerous amount of stubbornness could build something his children would inherit. But inheritance had rotted in our family because no one asked what kind of person was holding it. My father turned to face the yard. His voice was weak at first, then steadier. "I owe my daughter the truth," he said. Vanessa made a strangled sound. "Daddy, don't." He did not look at her. "Claire saved this company when I couldn't stand up. She paid debts I was too proud to admit. She protected drivers I called family but left for her to manage, and yesterday, I let my youngest daughter humiliate the only person who kept my name alive." The yard was silent again. My throat tightened. "I was wrong," he said. Not confused. Not pressured. Wrong. He turned toward me. "I am sorry, Claire. I had imagined that apology for years. In my imagination, it healed something. In real life, it simply arrived late and sat between us like a visitor nobody knew where to put." I nodded once. "That was all I could give." Vanessa screamed then. A raw, ugly sound. "You're choosing her?" My father looked at her sadly. "No," he said. "I chose you too many times." Her livestream viewers heard that. The employees heard it. I heard it. And for the first time, I saw Vanessa not as Aveline in full control, but as a woman built out of every excuse my father had ever made for her. She was still responsible. But she had not spoiled herself alone. She left the yard with Ryan trailing several feet behind. By evening, the clip of her calling me a thief had spread through local business groups. By morning, people had stitched it with the audio offer saying I was good for paying. For 2 days, my phone filled with messages. Some apologized. Some congratulated me. Some asked whether I was hiring. I answered only the last group. A week later, the new Clear Route Logistics sign was fully installed. I stood on a temporary platform in front of the employees, holding a microphone I did not want and feeling the summer wind tug loose strands of hair from my bun. "I know the last few days have been ugly," I said. "Some of you are angry, some of you are scared. Some of you are probably wondering whether family drama is going to cost you rent." A few people laughed quietly. "It won't." I said. "Everyone who wants to stay will receive a Clear Route offer by Friday. Payroll will remain on schedule. Health benefits stay active. We're renovating the bathrooms, upgrading the driver lounge, adding a real break room, and creating a training path for dispatchers who want to move into operations. Louis smiled so wide I nearly lost my place. This yard will not run on guilt, I continued. It will run on respect. Safety, legal hours, clean paperwork, and cold freight delivered when Wes said it would be delivered. If you work here, you matter. Not because your last name is on a sign. Because the work does not move without you. The applause hit the warehouse walls and came back louder. I cried then. Not the private kind in a car. The public kind. The humiliating kind. The human kind. No one laughed. Clara climbed onto the platform and put an arm around me. Kenny pretended to wipe sweat from his face. Louise shouted, "Speech is over before she makes us cry too." For the first time in years, the yard felt like a place where breathing did not cost me something. 6 months have passed. Clear Route grew 35%. We bought 8 more refrigerated units, expanded into California to Arizona routes, and opened a compliance training program that has already promoted 4 people. From hourly roles into dispatch support. The old blue Kenworth still sits near the north fence. It does not run. I keep it because my father's beginning deserves respect, even if his mistakes do too. Vanessa moved in with a friend in San Diego after Ryan left her. She sells skincare online now and posts videos about healing from toxic family systems. Sometimes people comment with clips from her own live stream. I do not join in. Public shame does not need my help. Ryan applied for a management position at Clear Route 2 months ago. I offered him warehouse night shift at standard pay, with training if he stayed 90 days. He declined that he wanted rescue, not work. My father still lives in the family house, his medical bills are paid through a protected account. Vanessa cannot access it. Neither can I for anything unrelated to care. That was Marisol's idea, and one of the few things that gave me peace. I visit him most Sundays. We sit in my mother's pale blue kitchen and drink coffee. Sometimes we talk about routes. Sometimes about weather. Sometimes he apologizes again, and I tell him once was enough because more apologies do not become repaired just because they multiply. One Sunday, he looked at me for a long time and said, "You became hard." I stirred my coffee. I became what the room required. He nodded, tears shining in eyes that had once refused to meet mine. I wish I had protected the softer version of you. That almost broke me. Not because it fixed anything, because it named what had been lost. On the wall of my new office hangs me mother's photo. On my desk sits the cactus, now growing crooked but alive. Beside it lies the rusted key to the 1999 Kenworth. People sometimes ask why I keep an old key to a truck that cannot move. I tell them it reminds me of 2 things. First, every empire begins as someone's impossible gamble. Second, no one gets to use your loyalty as a leash forever. My family tried to take my title, my work, my reputation, my ground, and my guilt. In the end, they only took the one thing I should have surrendered years earlier. The belief that being useful would make them love me. Now, when the yard lights come on before dawn and the first trucks roll out under the Clear Route sign, I stand at my office window with my coffee and listen to the low thunder of engines waking up. It sounds like freight. It sounds like freedom. And some mornings, when the sky over Fresno turns pale gold and the drivers wave as they pass the gate, it sounds like my life finally leaving without asking anyone's permission.